So the Y coordinate of the door sign gets above 2 to the 23rd, and then starts rendering really crusty looking. Wait, why is it that high? What am I not understanding? Why does the value get that high for the door sign? Are we talking about like the little like door entry pop up with like your controls on it, or is this something different? Or does that like accumulate errors or something? Oh, that sign, the depth sign. So that you're telling me that indexes into the texture sheet at whatever like height your current level is at, and then it wraps, but it's still, oh my god, I can show you this. Hold on. We're gonna open up more hacker tools. You're not gonna see this. I can show you guys something really cool. This is completely non sequitur to what we're doing. I could show you exactly what they're talking about in chat right now for anyone who's wondering what it looks like when you loop a texture too far. So let's see. It is the journal entries that have this. So I need to open up a debugging tool to do this because this is not exposed in Overlunky. Why can't I press tab? Where's my journal? Where's my escape menu? I accidentally turned off pausing, I think. Hold on. There it is. Okay. This might give some insight, by the way, into like some glitches that you occasionally will see in your journal, but I want to show you guys something kind of neat that I believe we've seen many times at some point. I think I know like how it happens, or like I know like what causes it, but not like why the cause occurs. Like there's a cause for a cause here, and I know part of the story, but not all of it. So let me open up my debugger here real quick. Let's see here, and this is the X64 debug program, which there's like a plugin for Spelunky that they added. They use this for some of their like testing to figure out like variables and stuff. And incidentally, I was just looking into the journal entries because I need that for the task tool, and there's unexposed variables that I need to commit at some point. And I was dicking around with the textures on the journal, and I found out about this while I was doing it. So hopefully this doesn't cause too many issues. We now have Playlunky, Overlunky, and the debugger attached to Spelunky. So assuming that it doesn't just die under the load that I'm putting it in, I should be able to go into the, let's see, states. Journal stains is unexposed, but I exposed that locally. Let's go to one of these blood splats. And let's see here, did I... Oh fuck, did I compile this wrong? Hold on. I can change this in memory if I need to. Oh, I didn't recompile it, my offsets are wrong. Okay, hold on. Hold on, I think I can salvage this. Oh, why didn't I recompile it? I'm gonna restart the game anyways, because I need to go to a level that's taller. Okay, I need to recompile. This will not take very long, so let me stop debugging. That's gonna kill Spelunky, but that's okay because we're gonna lose that level. Kiss the lizard goodbye. Very quickly, just some very quick on-the-spot, like just software development issues. I made a change to test something, and I didn't change it back for the debugging plugin, and I didn't like resubmit the changes that I made. So let me go check really quickly here. I don't have chat up for a second here, so I apologize if you're trying to communicate with the streamer. I need more monitors. Don't buy me a Switch, buy me another monitor. Actually, don't do that either. I don't deserve that. But I'm definitely buying another monitor before I buy a Nintendo Switch, so that I can get salty about Mario Kart or whatever chat wanted me to do. Yeah, there it is, the padding. I had taken some padding out to test like how that affected like how bytes get rounded, and it didn't go well. Alright, deploy aux files. Build. Alright, let's launch Spelunky again. Exit code 0, you love to see it. True programmers understand the feel of seeing the message exit code 0 and just knowing that it's all over. Your suffering has come to an end and the thing you're doing is actually going to work. We need 4 players. Yeah, don't let me forget that. We're still doing that. Is there any mods that make more than 4 players? Nobody knows how to do that, especially not online. Locally, you could almost certainly do it with hired hands, Like, you could probably hijack hired hand AI for like another input device. No one knows how to do it for online. Like, online is still too much of a black box for that to happen. It's most likely doable for local, but you need to have friends in real life to get any value out of that, unless you like want to maybe do some like super scuffed like not crossplay, some like screen share shenanigans. And you wouldn't even be able to use, I think, remote play through Steam, because I think remote play through Steam has a 4-player limit, so you would basically have to like, yeah, parsec, like run your own solution and somehow get like 8 input devices on your computer and then tie that to the mod in Spelunky. No one has done this. Yeah, Spelunky 99 was solo runs with like cross interactions, but you couldn't see the other players. So it wasn't quite the same thing. Yeah, inspired by Tetris 99. I think there was like a Mario 36 or something. There's been a few other like spin-offs of that since then. Spelunky 99 is like on hold for the foreseeable future as far as I'm aware. I don't know if it'll ever come back or not, but it was fun while it lasted. Alright, so let me open the debugger again. And I'm going to show you guys a scuffed journal that might look familiar. And I will explain what it is, and we can leave it to speculation how it happened, like in normal runs. But there was a phase of updates, and I think it might still be possible, where sometimes your journal just looks fucked up for some reason. And like, we never knew why it happened, but I think I know how to make it look like that. So it might give us some insight into what causes it. And then we'll go back to doing more science. So this is just going to be kind of in the middle of the other science VOD that I'm going to cut at some point here. Because this is interesting to me, because I just, like, literally, like, 3 days ago found out about this while I was testing variables in the journal. Alright, so I got the debugger open and my game hasn't crashed. That's a good sign. We don't need Overlunky yet, so we'll just keep going. Has anybody redeemed a new character? Let me check. Peppino. We don't have to play Peppino anymore, and I forgot that I had Peppino. You know, whatever. It's been an hour. I'll play this unless somebody redeems something else. So let's see some crusty journal artifacts, folks. That's what we're here to see. Do I have a YouTube? Not yet. I am going to set up a YouTube when I release like the task content, and I have a VODs channel that I'm going to eventually upload all of my science VODs to. Alright, so what I'm trying to do here is get something in my journal. Like literally any item. I'll turn on Overlunky later. I just want to get an item in my journal. Actually, I need a blood splat. Yeah, let's just do Overlunky now. I was gonna say I could do this naturally, but I need to get a blood splat, which means I need to take 4 damage, and that's going to kill me. William Chang. You are going to have to link that to me. Like, give me a link to that, and I'll install it next time I can, or next time my game crashes. I don't think I have that. Oh, and you can see, by the way, on my cursor, I'm at height 92 right now. 64 only applies to tall levels, like Duat and Ice Caves, I'm pretty sure. Maybe Cosmic Ocean, if it's big enough. Cat, shush. We're doing things here. Alright, so I need to give myself some health, and I need to give myself, like, spiked shoes or some shit. Alright, so there we go. We got an item in the journal. I can give myself some health. That's not how you do that. E.health equals 99. Give myself an Ankh while we're at it, so we have a couple toys to play with. And we'll give ourselves some pets. Oh, fine. Here, have some more cats. I need them going to the door. So what this is going to do is give me some blood splats and paw prints. I need to take some damage from thorns. Huh. I didn't know moles were too stupid to understand that. Why am I not? Oh, I have God mode on. There we go. Red panda. Okay, I see. Right, try not to let me forget that. We have a long list of things that I need to do, and it's starting to pile up. Alright, so if I look in the journal right now, there should be 2 blood splats and like a couple paw prints in the journal. Once again, I left no paws turned on. There they are. 2 blood splats, 2 paw prints. So what we're going to do is fuck with these, and I'm going to show you the texture artifacting that I think people have seen before. Sometimes it's on this pointer, sometimes it's on one of these objects. I can show you what that texture artifacting looks like, and we can speculate as to what might be the cause for that. And it's the same thing that they were talking about with floating point precision. So if you don't know anything about how texture sheets work, in this game, and I think in most games, if you don't specify like how they're supposed to wrap, they usually will just wrap back to the other side of the sheet. Other settings can include clipping it to a blank plane. It's usually alpha value 0 with like black as the color. Or stretching is another thing that you'll see texture sheets do, where they'll stretch infinitely in all directions if you index out of the sheet. The ones in Spelunky, for this particular texture, they loop, which means if you go off the right side of the sheet, your pointer wraps back around to the left and you start getting a texture from the left side of the sheet again. Those are the three that I like know of. There might be other, you can combine X and Y values to be different. Like you can have it wrap differently horizontally or vertically. But I think most, if not all, the Spelunky ones just loop horizontally. So with that information, I should be able to, yeah, it is literally parallel universes. Like the game basically just loops it to the other side with some kind of modulus operation. I don't know exactly what it does with the float values, but the floats get crusty the bigger they get, even if you're wrapping like to the other side. So if I go to the journal stains in memory, of which I think the first one is a paw print, let's change this to a new value. So first of all, there's a sprite sheet that these are all on. These are on row 5. I think if I change this from an 8 to a 0, it should show like an eggplant crown or something. So if we reopen that, okay, it's the bow. So this is the paw print that we're fucking with right now. I just changed it to the left side of the journal, like thumbnails, the ones that show up here. Like this is where like the paw print and stuff is, but not where these stickers are for whatever reason. So if we change that back to a paw print and then close and reopen, we get a paw print back. And again, I'm doing this off screen. You can't see this. I have a debugger open where I'm manipulating these memory values to get the values that I want. But I can make this value really big. So let's set it to like, let's set it just like 1,000. Let's see what that winds up as. All right, so if we set it to 1,000, we get a bow. If we set it to 10,000, we get a bow. It's hard to tell, but things are changing here. If we set it to 100,000, this is where we're starting to push the floating point precision. You should be able to tell now. It's looking a little crispy. We're getting a little bit into JPEG territory here. And if we set it to 1,000,000, which means it's just wrapping to the other side of the sprite sheet 10 or 100,000 times, because there are 10 sprites in this sheet before it wraps horizontally. If we set it to 1,000,000, we start getting this is a Minecraft bow now. Like we are beyond Minecraft. There are fewer pixels on this bow than there were before. And if I add one more 0 to this value and close it and open it again, it's just fucked up at this point. Like it's just two lines. It's stretched. You get different results depending on like which insanely high number you put in. So if I change it to like 5 million, it's slightly shorter. And if you set it to like 100 million, it's just straight up off the screen entirely. If I set it to like this value, let's see what we get. Yeah, okay, we're back to JPEG. And then I can also wrap the other texture index with some extra zeros. And you can just get shit like this. This is like a rope pile. And there was one, let me check chat and then see if I could find the one that reproduces the stretch effect that I've seen before. Let's see. I'm checking chat. Give me a second here because I had it closed. You sent me some DMs of what it looks like. I'll check those in just a moment. It was like a Terraria bow. Make a Lost comic. It just gets shittier as it goes along. You know what? You can make a Lost comic if you want. Take some screenshots of the VOD. Here, let me get the hitboxes off if you actually are insane enough to want to do that. Okay, the hitboxes are out of the way, so let's fuck with this texture a little bit more. I want to see if I can get the stretched one, because I've failed to get the stretch texture, but there's a way to get like a diagonal slice through the middle of it, and that's what I'm trying to get here. But it's kind of trial and error to see if it'll happen. So I'm just changing, I'm just kicking a few values around to see like where the float like breaks down and gives me what I want. Okay, we got a crusty, like ultra crispy, deep fried bomb box. Let's see if we can get this back to something a little more sensible. I think that's a freeze ray, but like the whole middle section of it is gone. Like once I get this into Overlunky, when I make a commit that has this, I should be able to do this much more efficiently. Ding. Let's try 4. So the playlist isn't over, right? Oh, it is over. I thought this was way long. Oh, I guess this is the science one, right? This one's shorter. I'm just gonna shuffle it and play it again. There we go. I need to add more science music. These are just Spelunky cap chests. What item is this? What item do you see? Okay, anyways, let's see here. Can we crust this up a little bit more? Why is it not playing? There we go. Okay, it's playing now. Technical difficulties. Moving on. Let's do that. Okay, that's a scuffed true crown. Set a 0 to that one. I really want to get the stretchy one. There it is. That's what I wanted. The weird, like, just stretched, like, chunks of texture. This is the thing that I've occasionally seen this on journal entries, specifically for this little pointer here. But you can produce this if you manipulate memory to have a sprite sheet index that is way out of bounds. And I wonder if there was some bug or is still some bug that causes this to happen. But this is what I was talking about, where you get like a chunky, like stretched line of texture. You can do this with a lot of textures in this game as well, and I think it has the same premise. Indexing off the sprite sheet from an insanely high value will cause floating point precision errors. And you will end up with stuff like this happening, and it only takes like 32-bit floats to do this. That's, I think, a true crown still. I believe it's a true crown, but the indexing on it is like super scuffed. Because the floating point values that I'm using are so high that it's basically like snapping to a specific pixel and then skipping several and then snapping to another one. You need to know more, I think, about like how like graphics work in general. I don't think I'm doing it justice explaining this correctly, but when I talk about indexing into a texture, I basically just mean the graphics card looking at a pixel on your screen and then looking at a texture sheet and saying which pixel on this texture sheet do I draw to the screen at that location. So like what color do I take from my texture and put on the screen? And just due to the very imprecise nature of extremely high floating point values, you get into a situation where your graphics card will select a pixel, or it'll select a color for a particular pixel, and then on the pixel to the right, it'll select the same color. And then again, and then again, and then again, and then for the pixel to the right of that, it'll skip several colors on the sprite sheet and grab a different pixel somewhere else on the sprite sheet, because the sprite sheet has basically been reduced to like an 8x8 JPEG, like at the resolution that it's trying to access it. And that's what I mean by indexing at extremely high float values. Why is it a float? I don't know. I don't know if that's like a fundamental property of graphics drivers or if like GPUs are just specifically designed to use floats for that. I think GPUs just always use floats for texture indexing. I don't think there's any way to make it not do that. Ideally, when you're writing software, you would not be indexing at 20 million into the texture sheet. You would be indexing from 0 to like 1024 pixels or something, but instead I'm indexing like millions of pixels to the right of the texture sheet, and it is wrapping back around over and over and over again. Like, in theory, it's not computationally doing that, it's just doing a modulus operation. But then to figure out where within the texture sheet we need to go after we've figured out where we are 20 million units to the right of the texture sheet, we're basically looking at an 8x8 pixel JPEG. Like, our floating point precision is just destroyed at this point. And I think because these texture sheets are like 10 sprites wide, they're not like divisible by 8, it's even like more obvious that it's doing something weird, because this modulus operation is not operating on powers of 2, it's operating on powers of 10. So some combination of that jank is, I think, what causes this nonsense to happen. Any questions before we go back to arrow traps and holding things in front of them? I just wanted to show this because I thought this was interesting. This is something you would occasionally see on old Spelunky runs during the journal like replay at the very end of your run. Sometimes like one of the textures would look like this, either briefly or for the whole duration of keeping the journal screen open. You would just see like a scuffed texture. This started because Cloyce brought up this door texture thing, which I'm going to look at in my DMs now. Oh god, it's the same thing. Yep, it's the exact same thing. Do these messages work in chat? Can you post these in chat? I actually want them to see this. Are you able to post that in chat, like one of those Discord ones, the first one maybe? This is exactly the same thing. This is what happens when you index into a texture sheet way too high up. Yeah, there we go. That should work, hopefully. But the sign on the left is supposed to say like 100 meters, 200 meters, etc. That's exactly what we're looking at here. And I'm assuming, without like you filling me in on all the details, what I'm assuming is happening here is this is using Kirby Warp, which is a weird glitch that basically lets you fuck with memory in Spelunky HD. And this is probably what happens if you warp to a level with an extraordinarily high level index, like in the millions. I'm assuming that what happens is it basically is doing the same thing that it's doing here. It is indexing like the millionth row in that texture sheet, and it's wrapping around like again, like symbolically, it's wrapping around like a million times to get to that spot. And then by the time you've reached that distance on this like texture sheet of parallel universes or whatever, the resolution of that texture sheet is so low that you get what you see there in that picture. That's the same exact thing that's going on with the True Crown here. And it's in the, you can see it's in the vertical direction. Horizontally, the sign looks fine, but vertically, the sign looks super scuffed. And that's because horizontally, it's having no trouble selecting the correct like column to get the color value out of the texture sheet. But vertically, it is like absolutely destroying itself. Horizontally, it does a normal mod 8. Well, how are those textures aligned in the sprite sheet? Are they one on top of the other, or did they just wrap it properly in one direction and not the other? Like, it's possible that they wrapped it correctly with a modulus operation before indexing it for horizontal, but not for vertical. I don't know what it looks like in the texture sheet, so I don't know if the numbers are stacked or not. That would kind of answer that. But I mean, you all know more about HD than I do. I'm kind of speculating based on what you've told me and what I know about just software in general. It's wrapped correctly for horizontal because there's an actual horizontal wrapping in the first 20 levels. Wait, is this a... How many are per row then? There's a few rows, 8 textures wide. Okay, I see. So they have a sign for each one, and it wraps correctly mod 8, but then after that it just gives up on the Y direction, right? Because it doesn't need to. Oh, that's perfect. You have an image. Wait, are these actually stitched together like this in the game? I didn't know that they pulled them all together into one sheet, or is this just like a reference sheet that you guys have? Yeah, I see. Okay, so for level 1, it would index its bottom left for anybody looking at, or bottom center-ish for anyone who's looking at this trying to find it. That's what we're talking about. Bottom center, the wooden signs with the numbers on them. So it knows the index of the 100 meter sign, and what you're telling me is that it basically, like, it'll add 4, then it'll do a mod 8, it'll go another 8, mod 8, another 8, mod 8, down a row, and then mod 8, down a row, mod 8, all the way off the bottom of the sprite sheet, all the way back onto the sprite sheet again, and it'll just keep doing that. And if you get to 2 to the 23rd power, your resolution is destroyed. That's what you're telling me. Like, if it tries to index that level, it is basically accessing the parallel universe that is way below the current sprite sheet, where the resolution is super scuffed. So there we go. Hopefully that made sense. If it didn't, don't worry. I hope at least it was kind of interesting. Hell has arrow traps? Wait, what? Is there an arrow trap in that sprite sheet? Hell don't have arrow traps, thank God. Or if it does, then I have lost my mind. I don't think it does. Maybe it did during development. There's no arrow traps there. Is the block on the... Oh, I see. No, I do see what you're talking about. You're right. There is an arrow trap in the Hell sprite sheet, and regen blocks. The fuck? Huh. I wonder if that was just like in development and they never took it out, or if I'm insane and there are arrow traps in Hell. But yeah, it's got regen blocks and an arrow trap on the sprite sheet, even though those don't even show up there. In fact, there are no regen blocks in the worm tile sheet. They're in Hell instead. But the background sprite for the regen... What the fuck is... What is Spelunky HD? Who made this game? Like, who programmed this game? I don't understand. I have no answers. So there's a duplicate of the worm background's texture. I need to show this on screen. Hold on. This is... I'm blue ballsing anyone who's like watching the VOD. Let me show what I'm talking about here. Let me pull this into another window. I can't keep doing this. There are people that might be watching the VOD, like, with no idea what I'm talking about. I need to get out of the habit of doing that. Okay, let's see. Chrome, I want to select... Where's the image? Here it is. All tiles. Browser reveal. This is what we're talking about, folks. There's an arrow trap in hell right here. And regen block, and then a broken regen block. And then over here in the worm texture sheet, there's a broken regen block, but there's no regular regen block to be seen anywhere. There are no arrow traps in hell in Spelunky HD. There are also no golden ladders. Spelunky HD is just held together by like toothpicks and glue. It's just, we put this wherever it fit. But there was some semblance of organization, and then they just wanted it to fit in this resolution of a sprite sheet, so they just crammed it in anywhere that it would go to get the sprite sheet to be this compact. Which I guess is nice from like an optimization standpoint, but it is a mess for like data mining and like trying to look at the internals of how your game works when stuff is just wherever it fits. Like, this is gross. I would not have done this. I would have made this like get generated at runtime. I would not have wanted to have my sprite sheet look like this and have all of this loaded into GPU, especially for a game from like 10 years ago when you might have run into a computer system that wasn't as powerful as they are today. I feel like it's almost worse to have that many sprite sheets loaded at once when you're not going to use them all. And if they're not all loaded at once, then I still don't even know why they're in different sheets. Like, I can't think of a coherent explanation for why they did that. Alright, what do we got in traps here? Or what do we got in chat? And I'll show the sign image in just a moment for anybody watching in the VOD. All 2 people. I shouldn't say 2 people. More people might watch this in the distant future if this is interesting to them, or if we have any breakthroughs here. So, I mean, our lizard science wasn't exactly a breakthrough. Let's see, I'm tabbed out right now. That's why the window's not moving. I don't think Chrome... Look, man. I'm going to keep using Chrome until they ruin AdBlock, and then probably switch to Firefox, but I'm lazy. And all the browsers have their own problems. And I don't want to deal with switching. Chrome works well enough. It used to be a lot better than it is now. Don't judge me, okay? Just leave me be. Let me live my life. I will switch off Chrome when I'm good and ready, and when I'm sick of watching ads. Unless that gets like perpetually like pushed back, which it might, because no one wants that change. But we'll see. That's a topic for another time. There's classic door textures in there. I didn't even see that. You see a flame trap under mothership stuff. Like, what the fuck is that thing? Yeah, I see that. It's on screen right now. I didn't have to move to it. That thing on the left next to the City of Gold tile set. What even is that? What is that, like, mold? Lizard science is pivotal. Look, maybe that lizard science will come back as, like, some really sick tech. We got some good tech out of the arrow trap science. The lizard... Hey, my headset. The lizard's not so much. The arrow traps have been very interesting, though. Like, we learned a few things from that. But now we've gotten completely derailed, and we're currently looking at sprite sheets during a 9-hour stream. This is how science goes around here. So anyways, let me click on the other sprite sheet to show people the signs that we were talking about. Not there. I would really love it if the one Chrome window that I actually wanted to be open was open. That one. This is it. So from Spelunky HD, that thing on the left is supposed to stay like 100 meters. Like these here. But instead it's just ultra scuffed because it's being indexed like way out of bounds. So it's wrapping around the sprite sheet. And then when it finally gets back into the sprite sheet, it's a floating point value. So if I was trying to query, say, let's zoom in a bit. Enhance. So if I was trying to query this pixel right here, but my floating point precision was incredibly low, then that essentially means that I can either query this pixel, or this pixel, or this pixel, or this one, or this one, or this one. Those 6, like those might be the only 6 pixels. It's probably more likely to be like a power of 2, but those might be like the only 6 pixels that I can actually access with a floating point number that high, because the intermediate values literally do not exist. My float is too big, and my spoon is too big. That's like the best way that I can explain what happens here. So that results in what you're seeing here horizontally. this looks like it's about 16 pixels wide, and that's because we sampled like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 pixels across this sign, because that was the best that we could get. Like, that's more or less, I think, what's going on here. For the ones that I showed, I have access to stripes that are 8 pixels apart. 8 pixels apart. Are these 128 by 128? Because that would be 16 pixels then. Like, that would mean you have 16, like, columns in this sign, which is what it looks like right now. There's 64 by 64. Well, there's definitely more than that. There could be some interpolation going on as well, if that's not the case, or maybe I'm just wrong in some regard here. I mean, I'm looking at this specific one. I don't think you showed me a lower resolution one afterward. I have 8 rows. Oh, it's scuffed horizontally too. Oh, I didn't even realize that. It's scuffed vertically and horizontally. You're right. Yeah, it's 8 rows and it looks like 16 columns. Or is that just a No, you know what? That's just a byproduct of the rows being super chunky. Yeah, it's blurry because of interpolation. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, you can see the 100 here, or like what number this might be. Yeah, never mind. Forget what I said. Clois is right. I'm wrong. It's vertically. Vertically, it's scuffed. Horizontally, it's fine. What's happening here is this is just the blurry texture in general. And I assume we're seeing a slice across like 1 or 200 or something. Maybe 7. I don't know which value that actually was. You've thought about this too much? Yeah, more than I have. But I think we're seeing a slice across either 1, 2, or 7 in this situation when we're looking at this sign. I don't really know which one this is. Clois probably knows which one it is. But that's the 100. That's the bottom of the M. Like, you see the 3 like white lines for the M right there. And this looks like 8 rows is what we're getting on a 64 by 64 sprite. And that's because our vertical floating point value is horrendous, but our horizontal one is fine. It's 100. Okay, I at least guessed that correctly. So what we're seeing is we're seeing a cut across it like this, and then like this, and then like this, and so on. And I guess we're seeing a chunk of this because it must have snapped. Did it actually do that? Did it snap up into the texture above it because the indexing is so bad? Or is this part of the sign sprite? And I just don't understand how that looks. Because yeah, we have a chunk of this thing up here. And it's looking like that's like the bottom sliver of this thing. It actually snapped up into the books. I think these are shop decor items, including this pickled brain. I don't know why it didn't make it into Spelunky too. This might be in the Tiki Village. I don't know if this is in shops or the Tiki Village. This seems like a Tiki Village item, so I don't know what it's in. Oh, it's not in HD either. Why is it not in HD? I don't know why they drew all this stuff. It just didn't bother. Well, this is quite a rabbit hole we've gone down, but I think I fully understand what's going on here, and hopefully I've explained it well enough for chat. Any questions, I guess, before we try to go back up the rabbit hole and look at arrow traps? And then this was also part of the journal science thing. So if I switch back to this view, this all segued from this here. This is a spiritual successor to that. Like, graphics wise, it's the same thing, but there is a bug that I don't know how to reproduce that will occasionally do this to a random sprite in the journal. And I'm guessing it has to do with the same thing. Indexing ridiculously far into the texture sheet for the journal will cause them to look like this. And it gets like ultra scuffed. This is a true crown, is what you're looking at here. So like it gets hella scuffed if you go far enough. Alright, so let's see, we don't need that up. I have way too many of these open. Alright, back to chat. Oh, by the way, I'm going to throw this out now. I have been streaming at 1080p 60 for this entire stream. Has anybody noticed any problems with that? What I've realized is I think I can stream at 1080p, and what'll happen is if my system is not able to keep up, the quality will just kind of look like 720p. But I figure I might as well take advantage of this for stuff like text. So if I do make VODs of these, we have 1080p VODs instead. So I've been doing that, and if that doesn't cause problems for anybody, then I'm going to keep doing that. And to be clear, we have transcoding today, and if you don't know what transcoding is a Twitch feature that will basically downscale your stream to like 720, 480, 360. It's good for mobile devices. Transcoding is very useful, and if you don't get it as an affiliate, you're not guaranteed to get transcoding if the servers are like overloaded and there aren't any available, and that means that you only get source quality, and that could be a huge issue for people watching on mobile. So I kind of want to know if I start a stream at 1080p and I didn't get transcoding and it's like fucking over mobile users, I might restart my stream at 720. If I think enough people are being affected by that, I'm not going to do anything that needs the full resolution. Like, it's just something to consider. But if Twitch gives me the transcoding, which it usually does, it always gives it to partners and it usually gives it to affiliates, then we don't have to worry about that. You can watch at a lower quality and your stream should be fine on phone. You can watch it at like 480p on phone. And yeah, I mean, it'll still be watchable. It'll be crispy, but I mean, you're using a phone. You know what you signed up for when you logged in. Okay, anyway, there's another non sequitur. You don't need more than 2 pi radians. 2 pi radians ain't much. If you want to watch a stream at 6.29p, you'd be my guest. I think I would give that one a miss. Oh, you don't need more 2 pi as in you're giving them all away. You know what? I respect that. That's true. It's just redundant at that point. You might as well just burn those off the second you get more than 6 of them. I thought you were like remarking on like the resolution of the stream, not the radians. I need to make a sound when you pay money to the money hole. So I mean, that would defeat the purpose of the money hole. You managed to understand it with how the strips were explained. That's excellent. Good. I'm glad that got through. Hopefully that got through to the people that wanted to understand it. And if you straight up didn't understand this and you want more clarification, like, I won't be upset if you want me to like try to take another shot at it. There is a point where you're not going to understand the technical details of this. So like, I'm talking about floating point precision here. If you have no idea what that is, there's, I think, too much of a background for me to reasonably explain this during a stream, because even I took a while to like catch up on the concept of floating point precision. But just to put it simply, the bigger your floating point number is, the larger the gaps between unique values. That's really the best way I can describe that. When your floating point number is really small, you get incredibly tiny fractions. But if your floating point number is in the millions, the next like highest floating point value might be like 1 or 2 away instead of like a millionth away. That's just kind of how that works. And then that carries over to graphics, because almost everything that a graphics processing unit does will be done in 32-bit floats. There are 64-bit GPUs, but I don't think that's like standard for that to happen. So generally speaking, you're dealing with 32-bit floats when you're like setting up vertices, when you're indexing into texture arrays. That's just how it's currently done. Maybe someday we'll get to 64-bit. Like, again, I think most of them can do 64-bit, but I think they don't usually. Yeah, Minecraft Farlands and Parallel Universes, not so much, though there is actually a really good video that Panenkoic made that explains 32-bit float precision. But the Parallel Universes themselves aren't a terribly good explanation of the problem. If you can find that 32-bit float video that he made, though, that's actually a really, really good video for just explaining it, because the technology extends beyond the Nintendo 64 hardware. It's literally, we're looking at 32-bit float precision right now on that crusty-ass True Crown. So, like, if you can find that video, feel free to post it. I'm actually talking about one where he shows fish. It's in Wet Dry World, and he shows off the fish. Let me just see if I can find that real quick. I think that's a good video for anybody lurking who wants to see more about this, like, and how it relates to games. Let's see if I can just find this by searching for floats. Oh, it's perfect. It's literally just called floats. There we go. You know it's a good video when you see that, when you hear that music. That video right there. If you're like legitimately interested in what I'm talking about here, this has a lot of parallels for how floating point precision deteriorates in a game engine and in a graphics like engine as you go higher up. Highly recommend watching that if this is interesting to you, or if you're like a budding software developer, because you will need to know this at some point. Like, if you're going to go into like true software development, as in you're sitting there, you're a code monkey, you are like you are writing the lines of code, you are dealing with specific data types. You need to know how to do this, because this is going to bite you in the ass at some point if you don't understand how floating point numbers work, because they are not decimals. They do not follow the same rules. weird shit will happen if you push the edge cases of floating point precision and you don't realize that you're doing it. There's a reason why you can go into JavaScript and add 0.1 to 0.2 and it does not equal 0.3. Like, this is, floating point precision is incredibly important, and I highly recommend you learn about it if this is like your field of interest. And this video is kind of a good like visual interaction of it in the context of Super Mario 64, which again uses the same floating point types that modern CPUs use to this very day. The only difference is we also have 64-bit floats, also called doubles, which are, as it would suggest, twice as precise. But the reality is you get way bigger numbers from that, but they do eventually break down, and 0.1 plus 0.2 in double precision is still not equal to 0.3. Like, just get that through. It doesn't matter how many like digits you add, you are never ever going to get 0.1 plus 0.2 to equal 0.3 reliably with floating point numbers. You need fixed point like decimal arithmetic to get that to happen. And most like CPUs and GPUs can't do that. It's not efficient. You'll occasionally see that in software that deals with like money. So like financial software, for instance, will use like fixed point precision. Yeah, it's like 0.2229. It's not even like 86 at the end. It's actually like 86175232125 or something. Like, it'll almost always end in like a 125 or something. And it's just because this is basically just an insanely tiny fraction of a power of 2 is what you end up with at the very end of it. That's usually what those numbers end up looking like. Or like 0.3 minus some like ridiculously small power of 2. Because you cannot depict these numbers in binary. So again, know your stuff, but I'm not going to spend my whole stream lecturing this. Hopefully, if this is like intriguing to anybody, you'll dig further on your own time. And I do occasionally bring this stuff up in streams and try to like loosely explain floating point precision. I explained this, for instance, a little bit when I was showing the arrow trap edge case, and that's what we're going to talk about next. So maybe this will like shed a little bit more light on the situation. Let's show the arrow trap like precision case, because this is also related to floating point precision, like those texture indexes that we're talking about right now.